I've been thinking a lot lately about how most of us are struggling in this country that values money over pretty much anything else. And I've realized something that I want to share with you. It's not just you, it's not just me. We're all caught in this system that wants to concentrate wealth in very few hands at the expense of everybody else. I've seen this firsthand. I've worked with people from all walks of life who are just trying to make it work. The system that we live in is designed to keep us struggling, to keep us barely getting by, because when we're worried about making that next paycheck, when you're afraid of losing your job, you can't speak up. You can't take risks. You just have to keep your head down and try to survive. My husband and I have done pretty well, and yet we have terrible health insurance. All three of us, my husband, my son, and myself, have had different things happen in the past few months. And we get these bills where each of us have maxed out our personal $9,000 deductible, and you still have to pay more than that, but we've each done that, and it's only April of this year. It's pretty common to be in this situation where there's bills spread out everywhere and you get that knot in your stomach, like this heavy rock. I think to myself, what are we doing wrong? Why can't we figure this out? And that's really the trap. That's the lie that we're sold, that if we are struggling with money, right, it feels like we've done something wrong, like it's a personal failure. We don't look at it like it's the result of a system that's literally designed to make most of us struggle, while a few people at the top have more than they could spend in 10 lifetimes. So I want to share something with you, something that I think you can probably relate to, because having worked with people in money, I know that everyone feels shame about money in different ways. I have an MBA in finance. I'm a certified financial planner. I've been working with money for over 30 years. Investing in the stock market is still hard for me because of a situation that we had happen in 2008 where our advisor called us to tell us that our life savings was gone because it had been put in auction rate preferred securities that literally failed overnight. And that trauma of like feeling like you make a mistake with money and you can't recover is something I think a lot of people struggle with. This fear that we don't know if we're going to be okay and if we're going to be able to recover from the challenges that we felt. So I know that I'm not the only one. I've worked with thousands of people. I think setbacks are really common in our society and they knock us down and they feel like they're hard to recover from. But here's what I want you to be thinking about. I wrote a book this past year because I knew that to process like all these feelings that we have about money is really important. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of forums or places to talk or think about why we do the things we do or why we stress out as much as we do with money. And I've got all these observations of working with people, my own experiences with money. I mean, over 50 years of them, and especially this last 10 years, because I've been working with people talking about their fears, talking about their struggles. But what I wanted to do was write a book that would allow people to see themselves and see their own struggles and see the voices in our head that we're dealing with. So what I did was I wrote a book, a fictional parable about a 34-year-old woman and her husband and their friends. And what I wanted to do is because I've walked this myself and I've seen others walk it too, I wanted to create a book not just about the problems, but also the solutions, like the way out of all of it. You may be like me, where some of my favorite books that I've ever read are parables. So The Alchemist, The Richest Man in Babylon, the most successful salesperson, probably not saying that right. There's something about stories that just they get past all of our defenses. They slip right in when we're not looking. And I can think of the fact that when I was a kid, my dad would try to lecture me about something and I just tune it out. But the minute he would start talking about a story of someone he knew, who had gone through something, similar to what I was faced with or what he was faced with, then suddenly I was all ears, right? We are wired for stories as human beings. So in this book, I tell this story of Mirabelle, a 34-year-old woman in San Francisco. And on the surface, she seems to have figured it out. But inside, she's realizing that she's missing out on life, the life that she really wants to live. And so she goes on this journey to figure out how to bring more joy and happiness into her life, how to move away from living in constant scarcity. There's this one scene where Mirabelle, she's sitting on her living room couch and she's crying after having a fight with her husband about money. He's been controlling her financially and she feels really small. And as I was writing that scene, I had to stop because I was crying so hard because I could feel how that sort of thing had happened to me and had happened to many other people that I know. I've been there and I felt that smallness and that sense of like not being worthy to make good financial decisions for myself, that I wasn't smart enough or disciplined enough or whatever enough. Like what I wanted to do was write Mirabelle's story so that it was inviting like all these feelings that I've had and others have had that we may try to ignore. And instead of ignoring them, now you're bringing them into your home. You're sitting down with them and you're making tea for these challenges and these difficulties and these problems and these voices in your head saying, I see you. I acknowledge that you're there. I remember one time halfway through the book, I realized that I was so terrified of sharing what I was writing because it wasn't good. It wasn't pretty. It felt like I was exposing myself. I was exposing like all my money fears and these scarcity patterns that I was giving to the characters, and yet they have been mine. And what would people know? What would people think of me if they knew that? Then I thought, well, if this is what's happening for me, what if that's exactly why I need to share it? Like, what if someone needs to read this book and think, oh my gosh, like I thought I was the only one who felt this way. And what if somebody reading that were able to feel less alone and less isolated? And that is what really kept me going, writing this book, like thinking this could make a difference in someone's life because that's what stories do. They help us see ourselves. They help us welcome all those difficult feelings about money and fear and shame and anxiety and say to them like, I see you, you're a part of me, and that's okay. Like, Lisa has these challenges and the characters have these challenges. And what if I were to just accept that this is part of the life that I've lived and I don't let them stop me anymore? And so we can do that. Like we can be present with all of it, not just the good feelings, which everyone wants to celebrate, right? And talk about, but what about truly seeing things as they are? That's when I think we can make different choices. Like that's when we can live fully because we've seen ourselves, we've seen our past experiences, we've accepted it, and now we're ready to like make different choices going forward because we're letting go of that shame, or at least we're honoring it and respecting it and accepting that it happened. And so that's the journey I want to invite you on, because Mirabelle's story, I believe that you can find parts of your own story in it. And then by reading it and journaling your way through it, because there's questions that invite you to come into the experience, not just read it from afar, but journal about what's coming up for you as you read the book. Then from there, you can start to rewrite the parts that aren't serving you, right? So these journaling questions help us to reflect on our own experiences. And when we give ourselves the space to really think about our relationship with money, I have seen tremendous changes in people's lives just from that like small action. I remember when I was first writing this book, I was workshopping it with people in my community, and I would watch people going deeper and deeper and gaining insights about themselves and their own patterns with money. And by the end of the book, they were able to feel like not hopeless, but hopeful. They felt like they could do something different because they could see what Mirabelle had done, and they could learn from all the things I've learned about money over this past 30 plus years of helping people with money. And so my goal with the book is to help you have a sense of your own power, your own ability to improve your life with simple steps, steps that don't cost much, that you can put into practice immediately. And I've already seen big changes happen. Like, people shared with me healing stories after reading the book and doing the journaling, where they felt better about themselves, about their lives. They knew what to do different going forward. And let's face it, even if it's just like one tiny thing that you shift in your life, that one thing can lead to huge improvements over time. That's really the beauty of this work, this transformative work. Like, it's funny because I go back to the book. I wrote the book, and I'm returning to the book in these sort of crazy times with money, and I'm learning from it. I'm pausing and reflecting and using the practices in my own life, even though I wrote the book, which is pretty funny. These changes that I've witnessed, that, people paying off debt, people starting side businesses, people having conversations with their partners about tough money topics that they did not feel empowered to talk about until they read the book. Like, I found that when we heal our relationship with money, even just tiny bits of it, we are also healing so many other aspects of our lives. Like, our relationships are affected, our health can be affected, and definitely our sense of self-worth and confidence, which I want to say, like, money and confidence go together. When you feel confident about money, you have a much higher degree of chance of success than when you are beaten down and you're feeling low self-worth with money. And so this book is set up to show you just how much you really have to work with, the resources, the friendships, the assets that you may not have really valued before you see what happens in this book. So my goal is that I want you to find greater joy and abundance. And I know that you can do it in this system that isn't always set up for our success. But when we can welcome all of our feelings about money, the fear, the shame, the anxiety, and say to them, I see you, you're a part of me, and that's okay. That's when I think we can truly see things as they are. That's when I think we make better choices for ourselves with money. Like, we're all in this kind of economic soup together. And perhaps my hope, right, is that this little book might be a small part of our journey to creating something better, something more peaceful, something more equitable, something more joyful in the world. I realize that I could talk about this all day, so I'll just say that you are the reason that I wrote this book. I really hope it helps. I have learned that beyond scarcity lies a world of possibility, and I'm so excited to share this with you.